Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 192 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Fabien Daubet. He's an illustrator and concept artist based in Denmark. And, well, as you know, before we start and jump into the first questions, the signature questions of the podcast, as usual, I need to quickly mention that in the for contact section, in the captions, you can find the ID to his Instagram account and the link to his print shop, which you can, buy his prints and stuff you want if you want to support artists and guests. And also the link to his YouTube channel and also a PayPal link if you want to donate as well. Not everyone sells NFTs. Some people just, put their PayPal and so, they can get sponsored and, funding that way as an artist. And so, yeah, which is, of course, great. And yep. But it's kind of bad that, PayPal doesn't support everywhere, and, a lot of artists have to, resort to other stuff. But yeah, that's kind of a tangent. We can talk about that in the podcast. And all right, so let's jump into the first question, which I usually ask everyone, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design in the first place. Basically, tell us the story of, what made you go that, oh, I want to become an artist,
All right. Well, hi, everybody. I don't have much of a calling in the matter, and I got to the game really late. I'm 46 today, and I was 41 when I grabbed a pen for the first time. I doodled as a kid, like everybody, but basically past the age of 12, I didn't touch a pen until a few years ago. I was only looking for a hobby, for something to have, my Zen time, something to relax, to do something that I enjoy. And so I started. I thought, whatever, let's give it a shot. I played the drums before, I played the bass, I did models, I did a lot of things, and I got bored of it pretty quickly. I started drawing nonsense. I did mandalas, I did just stuff that took time and that involved putting in ink on paper. And after a while, I challenged myself to do some more serious stuff, learn the fundamentals, learn perspective, stuff like that. And reasonably quickly from there, people started paying attention to what I did. I started practicing with architecture drawings because I've always loved architecture. And one day decided to do a spaceship for some reason. I'm very fond of sci-fi, like you might see in the background. And yeah, people really then started to take notice and talking to me and supporting me and, telling me to keep doing it. And ever since, that's what I've been doing. I've been diving deep into sci-fi and retrofuturism. I found myself a nice little niche these days, doing this in ink only. And the more time goes by, the better I get and the more fun it gets.
All right, awesome. And actually, here's the thing. I think I found your works through, I think it came on my Explore page one day. I think it was one of your posts where you had like 3 different perspectives of kind of spaceships race cars. Is kind of like a mix of that, which there's like a blue and white on the top, and the yellow and the white on the middle, and there's a red on the bottom. And that was the one that also did took my attention as well, and got my attention as well. And I think there's, do you do that all the designs as well yourself? Like it's just your doodling and your exploration in the design as well in this stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to start doing fan art or replicate things that exist. A lot of the process for me is to work on creativity. So I basically do my own stuff. It's full of cues, of course, from the 40 plus years of sci-fi I've been watching and reading. But yeah, I try to keep it my own, definitely.
And actually, it's a really interesting thing because I recently had another guest from Germany, Stefanie Grunwald, and she also started art, so like same as you, a little bit late. Not like everyone who picks up, that whole cliche story when you ask someone how they got into art and they say, oh, since I was a good child, I remember I used to drawing and all that. Then I became a pro artist at 18 or something. You hear that story a lot, but you don't hear the story of when you're like, I picked up art a little bit late, and late is a weird word to say because
it's later than most.
Yeah, relative to what exactly? And she also started pixel art, a couple of years ago. And I think she's actually, in the beginning, she's a programmer. She was actually a professional programmer, and she still works at Adobe, I think. But then she started art as a side thing, hobby, as a Zen practice for herself. Mm-hmm. And she actually progressed a lot, same as you, in art, which is I think something quite interesting, and most people should look up to. And see, like, as inspiration, because a lot of young people usually, they tend to, for example, see some people who like got super successful at an early age, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna like back down, and like subconsciously, it's a subconscious thing, you don't really, it's an ego thing, I think. And
I see a lot of that. I see a lot of that. I spent a lot of time on Reddit in art subs, and the amount of 28-year-old that come and ask, "Is it too late for me? Can I start now?" And I'm like, I don't think there's an age to start drawing or to start be creative.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your actual profession like aside from art?
Well, that's it. That's what I do. I'd like to say full time, but it's not exact because being autistic, which you might have seen in my post, I can't really handle a full-time 9 to 5 job. I need to make my hours. I need to make my schedules. But this is my profession now.
Wow, that's awesome. And how's your experience been? Actually, I've seen you've been streaming on Twitch, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I started streaming on Reddit, on RPAN, and it did a lot of good for me. For over a year, I think I was streaming 5 or 6 days a week there. And I got a lot of attention. I got a lot of support. I got some clients too through it. I got followers on my Instagram. I got things like that. And it's been immensely helpful to keep me motivated. Unfortunately, Reddit streaming, well, they took some decisions these days, and it's not what it used to be. I'm starting to go back there, but it's just not that easy as it used to. So, yeah, I'm turning myself to Twitch. Trying to build a little community there, and well, it's working fine so far. It's a lot of fun, and it's for me, it's almost automatic to start streaming when I'm practicing, when I'm working. It's just a reflex now, and yeah, it just helps me keeping some good motivation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And all right, now here's the thing. What do you have, like, what plans do you have for the future of, like, where do you see your art going in the future? Like, do you see it, like, later on, maybe, do you have fantasize about maybe later on working on, I don't know, an animation or a video game someday, like, as a part of, like, like vehicle designer or just anything?
It's a good question. It's still hard to project myself in the future, but right now I'm in a place that I'm starting to like, which means I don't advertise much. I post on Reddit, I post on Instagram, and that's enough these days to get clients to come my way. I've done a bunch of concept art and technical drawings for a couple of board games that are going to be on Kickstarter, projects like that. And right now I finished a bigger project for a virtual reality game that's going to come out later this year. A reasonably big team, very serious people. And that's been an awesome project. I got to design a ship. I got to design an environment or 2 environments. Controls, cockpits, this sort of thing. And basically I did the concept art for the game. And this is really the kind of gig I hope to keep on landing in the future. Basic concept art with people who are happy to work with somebody who works in ink only. So I want to keep on going that way.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think they would necessarily have problem with someone who would, like, do ink only, because at the end of the day, the thing that speaks is the design. It's just you take a picture or a scan, and that's fine. You can use it as reference in 3D. You can use it's literally no difference, I think, for 3D artists, actually, now that I think about it, because the main thing that I'm trying to focus on as well, like in the past couple of like months, is 3D. And like the references you need, it doesn't matter if it's on chalk, if it's on, like,
as long as you do a good reference, exactly. Do a profile side up 3/4, then the 3D artist does everything he needs to grasp the idea and then make it his own.
Yeah, definitely.
But I see a lot of people online who are afraid to do ink these days and think that everybody has to do digital to work. It's the only way. And well, I don't think that's true. I think there's still very much a room for ink, paper, graphite. It's not done yet.
And I don't know, maybe there's like, I don't know. I hope they do some research on the differences of this between artists, but I think there's like merits to like using different mediums. Like, what I mean by that is, I mean, of course, sometimes when you pick like a nice ink brush in Photoshop and you just use it with your like Wacom tablets or something and you just brush it around, it feels kind of nice, But at the same time, that niceness is also something very tangible that you can only have it in on physical mediums, I think. And I think there's things click in your brain when you use like physical mediums that doesn't click when you're using digital. That's my opinion.
I would agree.
Course,
and I also like the fact that I work in ink. I barely use graphite, and I like that it's extremely unforgiving. I think it's a good way to learn. So when I'm sketching for myself, when I'm practicing, or when I'm making posts for my socials, I work in ink from the start. That teaches you to, fix your mistakes, or distract from them, or just live with them. And I think that's a pretty healthy attitude if you want to get better at things.
Yeah, exactly. And now here's an interesting question about like design process. How does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a piece? I mean, do you usually like freehand, like sketch doodle until the idea, you see an idea in your sketches and then translate it into like actually a draft? Or
it's a pretty loose process. If I'm drawing for me, if I'm not drawing for a client, then I'll often start with only the remotest idea of what I'm going to do. Like I decided, okay, today I'm going to do 2-3 spaceships on a page. And I don't have much more than that when I start. I'll decide on a point of view. I'll put my vanishing points. I'll do a box. And then I just start carving in it and, bevel, extrude, try to find ways to make it pretty, and use all the tricks in my book until I run out of tricks, and then hopefully I have something that's decent to look at. Now, when I work for a client, it's a completely different process. That means you really have to follow a brief. You have to understand what the person is looking for. I'm lucky this far. People give me a lot of liberty on my design, so that's pretty cool. But you're still, do they want a small ship, 1 person, 5 person, a ship for 1,000 persons? And then it's about talking with the client more than drawing to figure out exactly what they're after.
All right, interesting. And here's the thing: something I've noticed, like from in your works, like in your posts on Instagram, and I just want to mention this as well to anyone who might be listening. And by the way, this is like something I always tell in the podcast. I always tell the recording day. Like today is like 18th of August, and this is episode 192, as you see. And let me actually check on my schedule. When will episode 192 be uploaded? It will be uploaded on September 19th, so a month from now. So to anyone who's listening to us from the future, I just want to say this, that in art, like whenever an artist has like the more grasp they have on any certain aspect of fundamentals, it always shows in their works. And the better understanding of each aspect of fundamentals, the more appealing the piece of work is, whether it be 2D, 3D, just anything. And the thing that really pops out to me, like in your works, is that it shows that you've really put in and understand that, like, your perspective is always really on point, which I think is one of the reasons, especially your spaceship drawings, like really show the scale and, like, the just dimensions of the whole ship and vehicle. And I think that's what makes them like really nice to look at or appealing, and just the perspective is really like good in my opinion. Like. And that is, go on.
That's what people say. That's also the first challenge I gave myself when I started drawing and wanted to get better. Because I remember as a kid thinking, well, the perspective is impossible. That I'll never be able to do that. I don't get it. There's just no way. But in this day and age, man, YouTube's your best friend. Find the right channels, find the right people with the right books, and there's nothing you can't learn. So I spent a couple of years practicing, and then I got a bit of help. I got a bit of help and some very good advice from Reddit, and now I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable with freehanding my work. I hope it shows.
Yeah, that's nice. And here's an interesting thing. Like today, the only limitation is if you have enough money to pay for an internet subscription, because everything is now free and available on YouTube and just everywhere, and Reddit. And I'm not like, here's a recent thing that's been kind of bothering me that I've seen, like, because I've had a couple of artists before on the podcast, and I saw on their stories or posts that they actually made a lot of tutorials and it got pirated. And here's the thing, even the things that you have to pay for aside, there's a lot of free things that is out there that you can just start with. And that is like, I think, really good. And the democratization of like, knowledge to me is like one of the reasons I'm doing the podcast. Is one of the main things is I want in the future, like I'm making it look like a brand or everything, Kouryer and stuff like that. It's not because of my ego or anything. It's just because I know that in order for me to actually make an impact, I need to make it like a brand, so it can be big, it could take attention, and I could later on like make it a thing that will make knowledge free and available for anyone, our knowledge. And that's one of the things I want to, move forward as well. And it's great that even right now on YouTube, if you want to become a character artist, like just any artist, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Even there's even free software. I mean, I'm sure, like, yeah, Photoshop is not free, unfortunately, but there's
GIMP is.
Yeah, there's GIMP, there's Krita, there's a lot of other softwares you can use, and there's this really crazy Mad Lad guy that he's been doing like he's using MS Paint for his landscape environment art. I think Christian Young or something. I forgot his name, but just crazy stuff. And like, just forget all the digital arts. Ink. We literally talked about ink. You don't have to pay subscription for ink. Yeah, I mean, of course, you should buy the paper and the pencil or pen or anything.
Yeah,
but you can
work. You can work for $5. I tell everybody who's looking for gear that copy paper and a basic HB pencil will get you miles. You really don't have to spend crazy money. I work in markers because, well, they're quite easy in the end, and they look good. This is the only expensive bit of kit I have. A bunch of markers. My favorite pen is a Pilot Taxi, and that's like €1.50. And paper. I work on sketchbooks or cheap stuff like marker pad. It's barely more expensive than copy paper.
Like calendar notebooks. Those ones, like calendar notebooks. There's like notebooks. I don't know if it's like the same. I haven't seen it anywhere, but I'm originally from Iran, and like all organization and everything is they like print. It's like an advertisement product, They make like calendar notebooks, which are basically notebooks with like calendars and everything, all the like different occasions and holidays in each day, and they're like this. And a lot of people use those for just anything,
Yeah, no, you don't need a great gear to make great art. That's for sure. And you should never get. It's easy to get carried away in getting that extra tool, that extra software, that extra paper, that extra thing, thinking it's going to make you, at least your art, better. And I don't think it's quite true.
All right. And
don't rely too much on materials.
Yeah, exactly. And all right, here's the thing that I want to ask you is about some of your. I mean, of course, I've seen your works. It's mostly sci-fi and stuff, and you also mentioned that you've been like consuming sci-fi, like content and media for like 40 years now. And I was wondering, yeah, nice. That here's my question: what are some of your favorite inspirations, like in terms of like franchises? I'm not just talking about movies or series or books and video, just everything.
Yeah, if I have to boil it down, it's every sci-fi movie between 1970 and 1990. That era, those 20 years, the future with buttons that went click and CRT screens everywhere. Preferably the dark kind. I'm hugest fan of the Alien franchise, at least the two first ones. Aliens, I think I've seen 60, 70 times. Blade Runner. Those movies, these are the ones that made a huge impact. Actually, without me knowing, because when I started drawing sci-fi, I didn't think. I started drawing, and what came out is, well, basically stuff I've seen. So yeah, movies, plus a few books like stuff like Asimov that I read as a child, or Clark. These guys. This is where all my imagery comes from.
All right,
without trying to copy or emulate, but all the cues, all the juice of it comes from back then.
All right, fair enough. And we're just wondering, have you watched Firefly? It's I think early 2000s.
Of course, I have.
Oh yeah,
I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant. The series and the movie, both excellent. And I'm part of those that are very angry that there won't be another season.
Yeah, exactly. Same. The thing is, the reason that I kind of mention this is because it's something really underrated, which is weird why it's underrated, because it was such a like a great franchise and idea, just setting and everything, how they like made it up, and it had like a nice contrast of like different elements of design when it came to writing and world building of it. And like not just that, I mean the design of like in the spaceships, the factions, the like it was a nice, like I wouldn't say like it's like a Cowboy Bebop but in a movie form, but it's kind of like
that.
Yeah, kind of, but Western. I think you could say. I think it's a genre, even Western sci-fi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's I think such an underrated genre that doesn't get explored a lot, and especially Firefly. I always mention it because anyone who's going to listen to the podcast constantly, they're going to listen to me rambling about like Firefly all the time, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I'll watch it later." And I'm like, "Yay!" And another person watches it.
You should. It's a very very good franchise.
Yeah. And
it's funny. I was and still am a huge Star Trek fan as well, but for some reason that's not what comes out when I try to draw. The somewhat sterile, flat, luminous future is not the one that excites me. I like the grungy one with leaks everywhere and tubing and big buttons.
Oh, I think you're leaning towards more about the dystopian type of versions, right?
Yeah, kinda. Again, look at those movies like Alien and Blade Runner. These are very solid examples of this. Imagine the hardware stopped evolving in 1985, but the software kept evolving, and not necessarily into a bright, clean, super happy future. A bit more of a messy one. I think it's because I have a fairly messy brain that I like to translate that into my drawings, putting 28 screen in front of a chair, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And that's kind of interesting, like, the way you mentioned that. Imagine the hardware stopped progressing, but the software keeps like rapidly, like, advancing. And it kind of reminds me of another setting. Like, have you like, played or seen any of the Fallout games?
Yeah, I played Fallout 4.
Oh, awesome.
That was really cool. I loved it. It's not my era of design because that's very much grounded in the 50s. But I loved it. I mean, just for the environments, I would play that game more than the story, which was still good. It's just roaming around in this world was a pleasure. And but my video game years are older than that. I have kids, so I stopped playing a while ago because I didn't have time. But I'm still playing old stuff like the Sierra games from the 90s, Space Quest, that sort of thing. And yeah, there's something for me in that era. I mean, that my work is definitely full of nostalgia from when I was a kid, and I can't get away from that.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed those things, and like based on the time that we've been talking for now, I highly recommend you to check out like Fallout New Vegas. It's the best in the series. It's literally my favorite game of all time. It's from 2010, and it has like those nice immersive writing of like 90s RPG games, like from Fallout 1 and 2 and Planescape Torment and all that stuff. But it's also like kind of, I think one of the reasons I'm kind of biased about it is it's kind of falls onto the Western sci-fi genre as well, heavily, literally. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything. And but it's amazing. I think you should definitely check it out. And speaking of like, oh my God, I was going to say something. I think I forgot. I forgot it. Never mind. I'll recall it. I'll say it again when I remember it. But now, like, we've talked about some of your inspirations and just things we both love and like, but I want to ask you now, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most when it came to art?
I didn't know their name 10 years ago. I've learned it as I started drawing, but I'll give you three which are reasonably obvious. Sid Mead was just a god. I came to realize that him and Ron Cobb made my aesthetics of the future. Every movie that I've truly enjoyed, whether it was a good movie or not, where I've enjoyed the looks of it, these guys worked on them. And so that came as a bit of a realization when I started digging little see what did Ron Cup do, what did Sidney do. Well, I like that. I know this. I've seen that one 20 times. I was like, okay, these guys had a serious influence on me without me knowing. And then there's people like Kouryer as well. The guy who did the ships for Star Wars. Again, same era. We're talking 70s, 80s. These three guys are just top of my list. If I look at more, today's artist, guys on Instagram like Space Goose, who is an amazing sci-fi artist. He got quite popular for turning in everyday objects into sci-fi ships. He's absolutely amazing. There's a bunch more. My memory fails me. Let me take a quick peek. I'll give you a couple of names. No worries. But yeah, there's when it comes to robots, what's her name? I think it's a woman. Nina Jo Art does amazing cyberpunk stuff that I'm trying to learn to do. I'd like to say it's good, but that's going to take some time. So there's a bunch of people on Instagram these days that are incredibly talented and very, very, very inspiring. But the core of my aesthetics is the three guys I mentioned back in the 80s.
All right. And what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project it is? I mean, of course, if there's something, there's usually NDAs involved. So if there's NDAs involved, we can skip right past this question. No. But if that's not the case, what are you doing right now?
Right now, we're cool. This afternoon, I'm going to finish that project I told you about for this VR game, which is done by a producing company that also deals in NFTs, which I don't do. But this afternoon, I need to design. It's going to be based in. It's going to happen in a spaceship, and the VR will display a cockpit and some controls. And I need to work on those two controllers to do something that fits the feel and the aesthetics of the ship and the environment. So that's exciting. It's going to be sad to see that project end because it's been going on for 3 months now. But it's been really, really, really exciting. After that, I'm in touch with a couple of people for board games again, and somebody. That one I can't say too much about, but somebody has a screenplay and might be interested in hiring me for some environments and some ships as well. So that's what I hope for the future, and that's what I've been doing for the last few months. And every now and then I get a commission that pops. Somebody who wants just art for their home, which I'm always happy to do as well. Yeah, and then I'm gonna be pretty busy as well. Actually, if a couple of projects don't fall right now, I'm gonna focus on my YouTube. I plan to record what I do on Twitch and then upload it, but nobody wants to see an hour and a half of me drawing. So edit it a bit, put some time lapse, do a voiceover, and try and explain what I do. It won't really be a tutorial, more like an insight in the process and the techniques I use. So I can give some free resources to people who are interested.
I think like here's what most streamers do, and I think you should definitely do that because that would really benefit you in terms of efficiency when it comes to editing and uploading. A lot of streamers, for example, when of course they have a YouTube as well and they want to do content for both. So what they do is they plan a segment of their stream and with with what they want to do, and they just record the timer of when it's happening. For example, right now it's 28 minutes on Zencastr. Let's say it's a stream. For example, from here to let's say 40 minutes, they just write it down. So later in the editing, they just cut that piece out and just upload that on YouTube. And on your stream, you can just have a chill background music on, so you don't have to even add that later in the thing. And it's even a nice thing for a stream as well. And you can even do your commentary on the stream as well and just upload both whole VOD and that video on the YouTube as well. I think that's the easiest and the smart. I would do that if I was streaming and uploading.
That would be the clever way, but at times I'm not that clever, and it's really hard for me to plan what I'm going to do when I start my streams. I think I'll definitely take your advice into account, but my plan for now is just to, record me drawing for an hour and a half and then look at it again and explain what I'm doing, because I'm not necessarily thinking about it or even conscious of what I'm doing as I draw. I'm just trying to keep a flow. And I think there'll be more interesting insight if I do it that way. If I try and plan it ahead of time, so I'm going to come out as stiff and boring.
That's an actually interesting point. I can
But
see that.
it will be time consuming for sure, and I'll have to find time for that. But right now, I only got some quick time lapses on YouTube, but I really, really hope to make some better, more interesting content.
All right. Looking forward. And also the link to the YouTube is in the caption as well. So if you want to, check it out and just, subscribe for, later uploads, you can, check it out as well. And all right, what's area beside the area you're working on right now, which is, of course, you're putting your passion and time and just developing your art skills in, art and design and everything and all that, right? But I was wondering, aside from this, do you have any other hobbies or aspirations or things you want to pursue later in the future that is not related to art?
Not so much, to be honest. This has become really a big part of my life. And it's also quite time consuming because on top of, if I got a client I'm working, or be it an illustration or some concept art, I need to feed my Instagram. I need to practice. I need to learn new stuff. All that really, takes the better part of my day. And then, I got 2 kids. Mom works more hours than me, so I got to take care of them. That doesn't give me a whole lot of spare time. Not that I miss it. So right now, there's not much else I'm really interested in as far as hobby goes.
All right, fair enough. And well, we've reached the final section and question of the podcast, which is appropriately called time capsule. And I mean, of course, you probably know what a time capsule is, but this is let me just phrase my question like this. Imagine in let's say a few minutes, a short limited amount of time, you had this window of opportunity to say anything from yourself to any other person who might be listening to this podcast at any point of time in future. And in that situation, what do you have to say?
Whew. I'd say it's never too late to do what you want to do, and try to, if you're not happy, look for something you like in life, be it work, be it in relationships, being it, in your environment. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to go out there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and never think that it's too late or the wrong moment to do it.
All right. Pretty solid answer, actually. And yeah, usually we tend to not undervalue these simple advices, but they are super important. We always think the answers to our questions are complicated answers, but they're actually super simple ones usually. And we tend to kind of forget them. And yeah, thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for coming on for this recording of this episode. I really enjoyed our talk. And where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is your Instagram account okay?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure as well. And to contact me, I mean, one of the best ways is to find me on Instagram. I practically live there. So always feel free to send a message here. Otherwise, there's my old-fashioned email, which is penguinkstudio@gmail.com. I will take a look at that. And you can also find me on Reddit if you're curious. And my handle there is, in a single word, yet another penguin.
Interesting. All right. And again, thank you so much for coming by. And thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as well. But before I say goodbye and everything, I just want to this is an extra thing I want to leave everyone with. There's something important that all of us as artists and people who are always sitting down should always take notice, and is our health. And by health, I mean specifically something that recently happened to me, that I've developed a really bad neck problem lately. And yeah, just make sure your chair is okay, make sure the pillow you're sleeping on is okay, because it might, bite you later if you don't pay attention to your health, small attention to your health. And yeah, just definitely I've been doing really different neck exercises and I've been doing fine, but yeah, it's a work in progress. So definitely try to not let the damage accumulate and just take care of yourselves. And yeah, that's about it. Take care, everyone. Till next episode, stay safe, take care, bye.